Yo, how's it going, everyone? Hope you guys all had a great pre-release weekend for War of the Spark. I know it's been a while since I posted, but yeah, once spoiler season happened and all of the content creators started making videos, I've just been kind of nerding out, brewing on my own and everything. So, but yeah, as always, I'm gonna kind of document what I've gone through as far as the pre-release weekend. Here's my battle report, but before I get into it, I just kind of want to make a note of my release schedule for this upcoming week. So yeah, this is gonna be the War of the Spark pre-release battle report. Then I'm gonna release the FNM monthly number 6. So that's just showcasing my Friday Night Magic at my local game store. The meta, and that's gonna cover the Ravnica Allegiance weeks number 10 through 14. So it's about a 5-week period, including the last week leading up to the pre-release weekend. I didn't do the midnight pre-release. I did the Saturday evening pre-release. I made some time for it, and I'm actually gonna squeeze in one standard showdown. It's kind of odd that my local game store is finally doing standard showdowns after all this time. As a matter of fact, it was really weird because 3 weeks ago was their first one on Sunday afternoon, and they had Dominaria standard showdown packs as part of the prize pool. It was weird. I don't know why they were holding on to them for that long. They just never got around to doing standard showdown for some reason. I don't know why. Um, my local game store, my main one, is a really great business. Great staff. Very clean environment. Very professional. They have a ton of wargaming as far as like tabletop. So they have a ton of events. Their like calendar is always full of events. As well as Magic. They have like Tuesday Modern. They have Commander on Saturdays. Yeah, it's a really great game store. I just don't know why it took them so long to do standard showdowns. Like I said, maybe they had a ton of events, like they just couldn't squeeze in the standard showdowns. But now they're finally doing it for Sundays afternoon. So I hope it becomes a routine thing. This past weekend was obviously the pre-release, so even though it was on the schedule, it overlapped. So they're gonna push it back. Another standard showdown event. So I hope it wasn't just those 4 weeks of 4 Sundays of standard showdown. I hope it becomes a weekly thing. Um, but just gotta hope for the best. I actually got to talk to the manager and ask him if it's definitely a routine thing. But anyways, I'm not gonna do like a standard showdown monthly just because I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to do all the standard showdowns. FNM, Friday nights, I should be able to more or less, go to most of my Friday Night Magic events. But Sundays, like, I should be able to, but I'm not 100%. So I don't want to do like a separate standard showdown. Especially like I had 2 Saturday standard showdowns from the previous meta, and those videos are in limbo. I had, recorded my results and everything, but um, yeah, I was like trying to hold on to them, thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go to all these standard showdown events, but it just now that my like Saturdays, I gotta like schedule a lot more ahead of time. So, but now it's Sundays, like at my main local game store. Now they're finally doing standard showdown. I don't know why it took them so long. Hopefully, I'll be able to attend more and give you guys a little bit more uh, in-depth, meta analyzation of analyzation uh, analysis of my local game store's meta. So yeah, I'll squeeze that in. If not tomorrow, then definitely on Wednesday. But as far as the next cube study, it was definitely the board game cube. I had already recorded it. It's just after watching it, few hours, I feel like I could have done better. I don't know like what it is with my creative process as far as going through with one take and then realizing, oh wait, I should have looked back on this and I missed this interaction or whatever, or this synergy. So I gotta find a better way of the creative process to do my cube studies as far as doing the first take and then not doing completely another take of recording everything again. And I even studied this time, so yeah, I gotta find a better way of the creative process to do a better job on the cube studies. But yeah, I just haven't gone to going around doing the second recording of it. I could have just released the first recording, but I don't know. Just I kind of want to improve every time I do these cube studies, and yeah, it just wasn't up to my standard. So yeah, the first take is probably like the rough draft, if you will, and then my second take is a little bit more refined. So yeah, like I said, I just got to find a better way to do. Even though I did study, maybe I should just chop it up a little bit in colors first, and then you know, yeah. Anyways, I digress. The board game cube study is coming this week for sure. Not this week, but hopefully next week. If not, definitely this month though. The upcoming month in May, I'll release JP Rock's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5's Game Night Cube, which, if you don't know what that cube was, it was a highly rated post on the MTG subreddit, and he actually made his own graphic designs and everything. So I want to cover that because it wasn't really a singleton cube. It was more trying to emulate an actual draft environment, like an actual set of Magic cards. Like as if it was a brand new set of cards. Like you would get, he did like 3 copies of like certain commons and everything, trying to emulate like the commons of a cube. So, but the reason why I wanted to cover that one is because he did his own graphic design as far as like a rule book, and he did his own dividers and everything. It was really cool, really well thought out. So it actually looked like an official product from Wizard of the Coast. So I wanted to cover that cube just because I thought it was really well designed. And as far as like a beginner, like what he was trying to do as far as his cube, trying to make that beginner environment for drafting. I think he nailed it out of the park. But at the same time, it's not like a traditional singleton cube. So I definitely wanted to cover that. But I've been meaning to get this board game cube out for a while now. But yeah, I just gotta do another re-recording of it just because I didn't really like my first take. I don't know why I do that. So like I said, I gotta find a better way of making use of my time for the creative process. But anyways, my second recording is definitely going to be released for the Board Game Cube this week after the FNM Monthly. So that's just a quick note on what I plan to release. Moving forward, though, here is my pool of Magic cards for War of the Spark. And as you can see here, I didn't really hit like any of the God Eternals. I hit one Mythic, which was a foil finale of Devastation. The finales though, they're X color spells, so I just don't think I had the mana support, the ramping to make finale of Devastation really broken and sealed. Because if you reach X equals 10, you get this plus X, and all your creatures gain haste. So I feel like that's more of a card that's gonna be broken in something like Commander. With like Craterhoof Behemoth, for example, where like that kind of tutor, because you can search your library or graveyard, where that kind of tutor through your 100 cards is a lot more broken, And my promo was Karn, which was awesome, but in the sealed format, I just didn't think there was a lot of artifact support for him. And on the back of that Karn, promo Karn was Commence the Endgame, so it was a blue spell. I actually have another copy down here, a normal copy. So this was my pool, and I wasn't really sure like what to do with the pool, so I just kind of like took what I felt was good. Like I really wanted to play with the Bioessence Hydra just because I thought that was like my best finisher. As far as like playing Planeswalkers early in the game, Bioessence Hydra comes down, and so I was trying to splash for that. With I had 3 Gateway Plazas, as well as like a Mana Geode, and as a matter of fact, during my first round, I was playing with Aid the Fallen, Jang Yingu, I think, which I wasn't too impressed, as well as Merfolk Skydiver. And yeah, like I'll show you the cards that I steadily over the course of the pre-release I took out. But this deck came out to be like a mid-range Jund Tokens kind of. The Price of Betrayals, I actually wasn't that impressed. It only really worked out in round 1. Against a Chandra, but otherwise, like Price of Betrayal, it's not really 100% removal to me. Though initially I was like, oh sweet, 1 mana, removal for Planeswalkers. That's kind of how I thought of it. But as you'll see here in round 4, my opponent had insane proliferate mechanics that Price of Betrayal kind of got nullified. But Living Twister here was amazing. Carried me in round 2. And as you can see here in my top end curve of my 4 CMC plays, I had the Dreadhorde Twins as well as Angrath, and I was trying to kind of have this amass sub theme as well. So yeah, I'll show you here in round 1. Yeah, this one was I went 2-0. I don't know why he splashed the black. I actually don't note any black cards here. But yeah, he had Blast Zone. I actually took care of my Crocodile, my Ward Scale Crocodile. So um, yeah, he got me with the Battlefield promotion. Combat trick. Took out one of my creatures early in the game, but overall, like it didn't. Oh, his Oketra though, he never drew his Oketra in both of his games, so I'm super lucky not to deal with Oketra. Um, yeah, I got super lucky because he showed me that. I was like, oh snap, dude, you got an Oketra. But yeah, Chandra, she, Price of Betrayal got Chandra, even though I took 5 to the face. It was 1 mana removal in that situation, which worked out really well in game 2. Tybalt, he had his Tybalts both games, but, Tybalt, yeah, of course, trading in with 2 toughness creatures isn't really wise, but he's not too threatening. And, yeah, overall, like Vivian's Grizzly, for instance, wasn't, he just didn't have the board presence compared to, like, my beaters. I got my Ward Scale Crocodile, which did get traded with Blast Zone. He got his 5 counters on Blast Zone. Oh, yeah, Bios Hydra closed out the game 1. Arlen's Wolf as well. Game 2, though, is when I grew a big Dreadhorde Twins token. I mass tokened, my army with 2 Dreadhorde Twins, and that's kind of how I beat him down. He just never drew his threats. And I also had that 1 mana Price Betrayal on Chandra. So, but I did take 5 to the face in that situation, but it's always worth it, I think, to obviously get rid of a Planeswalker for 1 mana. But yeah, I was super lucky not to deal with Oketra. Once he showed me that Oketra that he never drew, I was like, oh man. Yeah, I got really lucky in that situation. But round 2 was a Rakdos aggro kind of beaters deck. This one, he was swinging in. He had like 2 copies of Goblin Assault Team in game 1 that actually took me down to like 6 health. And he curved out pretty well with the Dust Mantle as well as the Shriek Diver. I think he actually probably shouldn't have used the Shriek Diver to attack my Planeswalkers. He should have just attacked face, because I got both Angrath and Vraska down on the ground, and he was trying to pressure those before I can get multiple counters from them. So if Shriek Diver just went at me, he probably could have gotten the game. And Neheb actually was what really scared me in game 1, but I got the Living Twister, and Living Twister just, absolutely blew out Neheb, which is great. I mean, you could blast, you had to pay 1 and a red, discard a land, and deal 2 damage to any target, so my Living Twister really just shut down Neheb, which is awesome. I was so glad that happened. Living Twister was like, it carried me in that game 1, so. But yeah, he had the On-Crop Invader, the Chain Whip Cyclops, yeah, Spell Gorge Weird. My Spell Gorge Weird got out of control. I got it up to 5/5. I added 3 counters onto it, just with the Planeswalkers. So, but there was another situation where the Spell Gorger Weird, the red one, the 3 mana 2/2 that grows every time you cast a non-creature spell, that one actually kind of was a dud in my round 4. So I'll show you that in my round 4. But round 3 though I got absolutely blown out. 0-2 versus this Jund control deck. And it was funny because I was like, man, I'm facing a bunch of Rakdos colors. Because round 2 was Rakdos, and then round 1, I saw, it was like actually like, what is it? Naya colors. And then he had the black, and I was like, what? Why is everyone playing Rakdos? And then all of a sudden he showed me that he was also playing Jund, which was funny. But I don't know why that was a really popular color combination. But in this case, he just controlled the board with Chandra's Pyrohelix as well as Liliana's Triumph. And he got me in game 1. I had a 1/1, because I had my Tybalt out, and I had a 1/1 Devil. And he used Massacre Girl, and it triggers after you kill that 1 toughness Devil. And it wiped all my other 2 health, 2 toughness creatures. So that was a blowout. And then he followed that up with the Sarkhan. And he got his Sarkhan again in game 2. So, and I had no anti-air. That was the thing. I had no anti-air. So, Sarkhan, he would just minus Sarkhan to create a 4/4, and then he becomes a 4/4 dragon himself. So that got out of control. But yeah, I had absolutely no answer for. I had no anti-air. As a matter of fact, anti-air actually played a role in round 4 which was against the Selesnya Midrange deck. And the biggest card was the Grateful Apparition. So Grateful Apparition carried this guy in both of his wins. Like, went out of control. The last game he had the Wanderer, and the Wanderer had like 9 points of loyalty with the Grateful Apparition just every time it triggered because I had no anti-air. So it was just a tough situation. He was also playing with Arboreal Grazers, and when I saw that, I was like, wait, do you know something that I don't know? Because 1 mana 0/3s don't seem like much, but he actually played with 2 of them. And yeah, he was just saying he was totally fine with just blocking with it if he doesn't hit another land with it, just as a 1 mana 0/3 to stall the game out. And as you can see here, he was, the makeshift battalion got out of control with the Trusted Pegasus, along with the Grateful Apparition. It was just a really great synergized deck with this counters, like proliferate kind of style. That got out of control. The Grateful Apparition just went absolutely berserk. And as a matter of fact, I drew my Grateful Apparition itself got a bunch of counters on it. And I had Price of Betrayal, but Price of Betrayal doesn't actually kill it; it just removes all the counters. So I'm not sure how I feel about Price of Betrayal. It kind of, I guess, betrayed me in this situation. But yeah, even then, like, the Wanderer got out of control, out of the range of the 5 counters from Price of Betrayal. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. But at the same time, on paper, it looked like, oh, wow, 1 mana to remove a Planeswalker sounds great, right? But it doesn't actually technically kill it or remove it. It just removes counters. So take that for what you will. But yeah, ended up going 2-2. Actually don't feel too bad about it. I was thinking, like, in hindsight, maybe I could have changed things around, but overall, like, I had these great cards. Like, the Ward Scale Crocodile got me a win in round 1. The Living Twister in round 2, killing the Heb was super clutch. So I was really grateful to get the Living Twister. Dominy's Ambush got me favorable board states, and Angrath, along with my other amass tokens, the Dreadhorde Twins. I was able to create a big amass token, especially in round 2, that got out of control. So overall, I would say these cards are my MVPs. But over time, like, initially in round 1, I was playing with the Merfolk Skydiver, but I realized that it was probably really greedy playing with it, because I was thinking, like, oh, well, I'll splash the blue because I have the 3 Gateway Plazas, and I could abuse the Proliferate in game. That was my mentality, but I realized that was probably a little bit too greedy. So I took Merfolk Skydiver out. Total Invasion, I was thinking, along with the Herald of Dreadhorde, with these amass tokens, I could create, like, a big army, which I did with the Dreadhorde Twins as well as Angrath. But I think Total Invasion, there was an instance where I top decked it and it just wasn't as good. And that was the risk I was paying trying to play this card. Sorcery, 3 mana sorcery to remove a non-land. This effect has been reprinted over and over, but yeah, it was just a bad top deck, so it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, even though there was the mass 1 on it. But I realized that, yeah, it probably wasn't a good pick in the deck. And Jangi Gu, also another card that initially made my deck, but over time I realized 3 loyalty for 3 CMC Planeswalker I don't think is where you want to be. Even with the fixing, I just thought it's kind of slow. Sure, it does fix your colors, but I had the 3 Gateway Plazas as well as the Geode, the 3 mana artifact, and I didn't really need the fixing anymore, so I just took it out. And the cards that I did add were the 1 copy of Duskmana Operative, just to have that 2/2 bear to contest the board especially against the Selesnya midrange deck, with his the 2/2 proliferate on death, like the Martyr, I think it is, in white, just to get a board state in the early game, as well as 1 copy of the Vampire Opportunist. I didn't play 2 copies just because of traded poorly with the Tybalts, for instance. But at the same time, it was another 2 mana play that I could have had, and had upside in the late game. But overall, like, the upside, even though it is 7 CMC for upside, it's kind of slow, and really what you're looking at is a 2 mana 2/1. So I didn't feel real good playing it, but just wanted to lower my curve just a little bit to have an early game play. In the Sorin's Thirst, just have more removal. It's kind of another card that I added in, and the Thundering Ceratok, which was another finisher that I added in, along with the Bioessence Hydra, as well as the Crocodile, the Ward Scale Crocodile. So those are the cards that I added over time, in between the rounds. And the Hindsight cards that I should have been playing were the Steady Aims. I had 2 copies of it, and going in round 4 with that Proliferate Spirit, I definitely should have been using the Steady Aims. That's one card that, I kind of just neglected. I was like, a combat trick that untaps and then gains reach, 1 attack, 1 power. I kind of neglected it, but in hindsight, on reflection, looking back on my card pool, I should have been playing with that card. Just had, 2 copies of it from the side, going in into round 4, trying to stop that Proliferate Spirit, because that's really what won him, carried him in both of his wins, especially in the last game where his Wanderer got out of control. And his Wanderer got pretty much infinite value. It vanquished my 4/4 amass tokens, my army token with the 4 attack, 4 power, and he just kept on proliferating. It was just, I definitely should have been using the Steady Aim to stop that Spirit. Another thing I probably should have been playing is 1 copy of the Invading Mana Core, just as another kind of build up. It leaves a 4/5, which is pretty solid, which is, as a beater, it's pretty good, but also just to have that extra synergy with the mass tokens. I already had the Angrath, I already had the 2 copies of the Dreadhorde Twins, and I did take out the 4 mana 3/2 that amassed 2 on death, just because, on its front end, it's a 4 mana 3/2. Whereas, these enter the battlefield effects, they amass immediately and trigger immediately. So I probably should have been playing with the Invader Manticore, because the format was slower. Getting the 6 CMC was more realistic. But and that's another card that I just neglected. And looking back on hindsight, I probably should have played at least 1 copy of it, because it synergized really well with my deck. And I had the 1 Giant Growth and the Arboreal Grazers as well. When I saw the Arboreal Grazers in the last round, I was like, what do you know that I don't know about this card? Because on its face, it doesn't look that good. It's a 1 mana 0/3, right? But he played 2 copies of it, and his first copy got him a second land, and he actually, on the draw, that was another thing, he chose to be on the draw to get the extra card. So I was like, that was some next level stuff, because, he chose to be on the draw as well as play with Arboreal Grazers. So he knew something that I didn't know, and it ended up working out for him. So maybe I should have been playing with this card as well. But the reason why I didn't go with the green strategy is because I wanted to lean more towards black. I did have, I had to reach the double black for Sorin's Thirst, as well as the 3, double black and a generic for the mass is a -2/-2 and a mass 2, I believe. So I had to reach black for that. So I wanted to go more towards kind of a black mana base as my central core mana base, but maybe I should have been going more towards green. So those are my hindsight cards. As far as a hindsight deck, this is another, looking back, I was like, oh man, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth going 2-2, and I was like, man, what should I have done better, And I kind of went through my card pool, and I kind of made this weird blue-white tempo deck on the left, and on the right is maybe I could have splashed for the Bioessence Hydra and maybe the Merfolk Skydiver, or maybe just go with the Bant core. But as you can see here, even with the Wall of Runes, a 1 mana 0/4 clogs up the ground. You scry, and it can allow you to get your flyers out, buy you some time. The Martyr, 2 mana 2/2 that on death proliferates. So I can get my Time Raveler out, Teferi Time Raveler, which I was lucky to open, as well as the Saheelis, for instance. I could have gotten these out, and the Martyrs could have protected them, and then on death they proliferate. So even the Naga Eternal, a 3 mana 3/2, just to clog up the board early in the game. The Teo's Light Shield, which was a 0/3 that when it enters the battlefield, you add a +1/+1 counter to one of your creatures, and that just enables you to get another way to proliferate something. So the Trusted Pegasus is obviously really good. 3 mana 2/2 that when it attacks, another creature gets flying. The Makeshift Battalion, in round 4 carried my opponent as well, because he was attacking in and getting that trigger, and that was another thing that could be proliferated. The Thundering Drake, even with my non-creature spells being at 2 CMC, maybe even on its core, a 4 mana 2/3 blocker could have been nice, but if I could trigger it, could be another way to add counters. And the Elite Guard Mage I should have been playing, I think. Because it's a 4 mana 2/3, gain 3, and a card, draw a card. And perhaps the Bulwark Giant, I could have slowed the game down. So that would have enabled me to get the time to get all my threats out, as well as playing with Divine Arrow, which was a Gideon's Reproach essentially. And some counter spells, No Escape, which of course is a 3-mana counter spell, but this format being a lot slower, I felt like maybe I should have gone with this more counter spells, tempo spells, like Crush Descent even. Even though you don't want to be paying 4 mana for a counter spell, the fact that it amasses, and then you have another way that the Martyr for the Cause, once it dies, your mass tokens get bigger and bigger. So because of the proliferate, so maybe that was another thing that I should have been on the lookout for. And Tamio's Epiphany was a 4-mana Scry 4, I think, or Scry 2, and then draw 2. Yeah, maybe I got that wrong, but yeah, maybe this was a better approach to building my pre-release deck, and maybe splashing the green, maybe just going, because I did have the 3 Gateway Plazas, so I was totally fine, like taking out the Jane Gangu, for instance, and just playing with the three Gateway Plazas as my fixing. I was totally fine with that, as well as splitting my mana base more or less evenly. So yeah, in hindsight, maybe this was the better deck. Maybe I could have even slammed my Finality of Devastation in there as well, because this deck probably could have stalled the game out to be a longer turn 10, turn 11, turn 12, where Finality of Devastation is actually playable. So overall, yeah, maybe this was a better deck, but at the same time, round 3, I was like, all right, I can't play, like, he got me with the Massacre Girl, totally wiped my board. The Tybalt screwed me over kind of with a 1/1 with Massacre Girl, and then he played his Sarkhan, and then game 2 he got a Sarkhan. I can't, that's just a better card pool. But round 3, I got the game 1 win, and I definitely should have been playing with the anti-air cards, but at the same time, I think I made the decision to say, all right, I'm 2-1 with this deck. I don't need to just completely make a brand new deck. I shouldn't do that. I should just, it got me here. And yeah, I did lose game 2, game 3 in round 4. So, maybe this was the better deck, but I think I made the right decision in just playing with the deck that got me there in the first place. So I didn't actually do a complete 180 and make a brand new deck. I just went with the Jund tokens, because my deck in round 1 and round 2 it did very well. Living Twister, especially the Ward Scale Crocodile, and the mass kind of a token synergy with it, kind of like this Jund tokens strategy, was decent for me, and it worked out well in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, round 3 was just better card pool. Hit me with the Massacre Girl, which was insane. That felt really bad. And then Sarkhan, playing it against Sarkhan is not, it's not fun at all. But round 4 we were both 2-1, and I got the game 1. But maybe I could have slammed in those 2 anti-air cards, the combat tricks, and maybe that would have done me better. But overall, came out with an additional 2 packs. If you go 2-2, I think you get 2 packs, and if you go 3-1, you get 4, and 4-0 is 8. So, and a lot of people like to split in the last round. Like if you go 3-0, they'll split typically. I saw a lot of people split in the last round. So, I'm gonna open those packs real quick, and yeah, here we go. All right, so here is kind of my card pool. Yeah, I don't think I have the support in these colors. Well, maybe I could have done like a Dimir core perhaps, but yeah, these were my multicolored. Here were my white cards. Already built kind of like the prototype of that blue-white tempo that I was kind of mentioning earlier. Maybe I should have played with this, I'm not sure. It's kind of an interesting card, but Deliver Unto Evil I just kind of felt was a little bit more slow, and your opponent gets to choose, so I mean, it technically could be a 3-mana draw too. Yeah, in your graveyard. So maybe I should have been playing with the Grim Initiates, I don't know, because they do a mass on death, so, but I just didn't have any like sacrifice outlet synergy. Maybe I could have played with this as well. The Manticore was a card that I, perhaps should have included with my mass strategy. This Jund mass token strategy. The Grazer, there you go. Yeah, this is the card, Steady Aim. I should have sideboarded this in round 4 against the Proliferate Spirit, the 1/1 Spirit that just got out of control. Yeah, Storm Citadel is not that, relevant. Finale Devastation, got the foil, which is pretty sweet. I guess this is a pretty good hit. I think this is going to be a Commander staple, just because I feel like in that format, tutoring out Search Your Library or Graveyard is a lot more broken in that format. With the X CMC, I'm sure you can abuse this, a lot more in the Commander format. Get like Crater Hoof Behemoth or whatever it is. Yeah, the Merfolk, Skydiver, Jang Yu, these are the cards that I took out. I even took out the Mana Geo just because I didn't think I needed the fixing with the Gateway Plazas. Because, I had the 3 Gateway Plazas, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, this is how the deck ended up looking. I got the foil Price of Betrayal. This card I'm not really 100% sure on. Because it is like a 1-mana kill a Planeswalker, which I did do against Chandra, but against the Wanderer, for instance, which went out of control with that Proliferate Spirit, this just went beyond the range, or went under the range of how that spiraled out of control. So it's not like a 1-mana removal. It's just, if the opponent goes out of control with the +1s or whatever it is, it's, can be lackluster, is what I'm trying to say. Spark Harvest, good solid removal. Aid the Fallen was a great card. 2 mana, draw 2 essentially. Both cards had to be in the graveyard, but Domri's Ambush, really impressed by the Sorin's Thirst. Here's some early gameplays. The Crawl Stinger, clogged up the ground. Spellgorger Weird in round 4 was kind of a dud. It just sat there as a 2/2. As a matter of fact, I did Domri's Ambush on Spellgorger Weird while he had like a 7 loyalty, the Wanderer, and it forced it to be a 4 power, 4 power creature with the counters with Domri's Ambush to triggered, and then he just vanquished it with the Wanderer. So it actually ended up working against my favor in that situation. But in round 2 against the Rakdos deck, it got up to a 5/5. So with the Planeswalkers, I got both Angrath and Vraska out. So not sure how I feel about this card. It did work out in one situation, but it didn't work out in another. Then again, the Wanderer went out of control with the Proliferate Spirit. Arlen's Wolf, really good, I think. If you want to go lay down the beats, unblockable with power 2 or less. Vraska's Finisher actually didn't end up being... most of the time, it ended up being just a vanilla 3-mana 3/2, just because I wasn't able to get favorable trades. And yeah, maybe like this requires a little bit more skill to play, but for the most part, it just ended up being a 3-mana 3/2. I just wanted to play on curve. So Tybalt was fine. Like this was my synergy that I was thinking. I was like, Tybalt, attack in with this, and then trigger, and then do Vraska's Finisher. But I just never got that synergy down. Living Twister was absolutely insane, especially against Neheb. So I love this card. Absolutely wrecked in the Rakdos matchup in round 2. Bleeding Edge, that's the card. So I didn't, wanted to reach, with the Sorin's Aid, or Sorin's, where is it? Sorin's Thirst. I needed to reach that double black for these removal spells, as well as, having the mass synergy, especially with, Courage and Crisis, along with the Dreadhorde Twins, to amass a big giant token, as well as, Angrath to keep on amassing. So Vraska was really good, just clogging up the board. I only played her in the round 2. I never played her beyond that, I believe. So, but it did clog up the ground against those 4/1 haste goblins. So, Biomass's Hydra never actually really exploded. Maybe I just didn't have enough, loyalty for the Planeswalkers. Whoops. Maybe I just didn't have enough support for it as far as all the Planeswalkers. But, on paper, it looks fantastic if you're playing with all this Planeswalker synergies, right? Because, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 for each loyalty counter on Planeswalkers you control. And whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on Planeswalkers you control, put that many on Bioessence Hydra. So it just never really worked out for me. The stars didn't align in the situations that I wanted it to.
But overall, I still think it's a great card. So I'm glad I splashed it. It did come down as a vanilla 4/4 in round 1 and won me the game in game 1. But overall, yeah, it just never really took off the way I thought it would. Warchgall Crocodile, I think, is a really great card, especially if you can add counters onto it. So that's another great beater. And then the Thundering Ceratok I added in over time just because I felt like I needed another finisher. But maybe I should have added the Manticore with that mass, enter the battlefield and mass. Comes down as a 4/5, and then it masses 2 on, when it enters the battlefield. Maybe I should have played with both, just have more in-game threats. So I don't know. The format's a lot slower. I had a lot of turn 1, turn 2 passes for both players, and probably the exception was the round 4 and the round 2 against the Rakdos Aggro and the Selesnya Midrange decks. Those were the 2 decks that played on curve on turn 2. And yeah, here's the blue-white tempo deck that was kind of brewing up after I lost. I was like, maybe I should have done this, but I think, looking back on it, I think I'm glad just committing to that one, my Jund Tokens deck. Even though this deck does probably look a little bit better as far as tokens, and, it does have a little bit more counterplay, has some more flyers, obviously, it has more proliferate mechanics. Maybe this was the better deck, this blue-white tempo deck, but at the same time, I think the deck got me there. It got me 2-0 in the first 2 rounds. So I felt like I made the right call in just sticking with it. And these are just extra cards that I probably could have, a sideboard, maybe board, if you will. So yeah, this is probably what the deck would have looked like. But yeah, that's that. Got a sweet box, which I probably will use for a casual deck. And yeah, only got 2 packs, which kind of broke up my streak. My very first pre-release was Guilds of Ravnica, and went 3-1 with his Abzan build. Ravnica Allegiance went 3-1. What was the build that I went with? That I forgot what I built. But I went 3-1 then. Here, unfortunately, went 2-2. Just got the 2 packs as opposed to that additional 4 boosters. But let's see what I open. I did hit a foil finale of Devastation, so I'll probably sell that off just because I think that's a pretty good commander card. And it is foil, so. But yeah, let's take a look at the 2 reward packs here. Whoa, come on, zoom in. This card I think is pretty decent, but yeah, just the person playing this against me in game 1, in round 1, I just don't think he had the creature support after that. He was playing with very low power creatures, so Curse Ascent, I'm not 100% sure on how good that is. Primordial Worm, Kyle's Ghost Form I think is pretty decent. Zahili Silverwing, which was played against me with the Rakdos, or no, Jund Control in round 3. Bloomhulk I think is really good. Charm Stray, probably not so much. Even Eternal I think is pretty solid in the Dimir zombies mass. Burning Prophets. Not 100% sure on this one. Oh, you did get the Scry. That's kind of interesting. Not sure about that one. Vizier of the Scorpion. Oh yeah, I think this one's solid. That's pretty awesome art. Ugin's Conjurant. Okay. Yeah, didn't see this one play. But, X flexibility, you can jam this in any deck. Prevent that image, remove that many counters. Arlen's Voice of the Pack. Wow, I should have. This would have been great, I think. Because I had the Arlen's Wolf as well. So, yeah. This would have been great. As another finisher. Way to generate tokens. Nice, Tomic. Sweet. Man, I dismantled my mono white historic legends with the Traxos. I dismantled that into mono white knights. So, but this would have been a great inclusion because it's another legendary creature. It triggers Traxos. It's a 2/3 flyer for 2 mana. Very solid. Very, very solid. And a swamp, which is sweet. Cool. Yeah, these are the basic lands are amazing in this set. Alright, here's the second pack. Boop. Here we go. Stealth Mission. Oh, this is a great card. Just gives you more more ways to proliferate. Unblockable. Honor the God Pharaoh. Discard a card. Oh, yeah, maybe I should have. Well, I didn't have this in my pool, but this would make a better card than the 3 mana take a non-land card and amass 1 from your opponent's hand. Rising Populace. I don't know about this one. This is along the lines of the Spellgorger Weird, where it might be a little bit too slow. Even though Spellgorger Weird did work out for me, this one, like in one situation, but in round 4 it didn't work out. But I don't know. Not 100% sure on this card. No Escape. Another good counterspell. I think in the format because it's slower. You also get the Scry, which is pretty solid, but the ability to hit creatures or planeswalkers and exile it. Girl Stinger. Vampire Opportunist, Spellgorger Weird, there you are. Arboreal Grazer, which, round 4 the Selesnya deck was running 2 of these. Yep. Prismite, Rubble Rider, oh wow, this would have been good. Yeah, this would have morphed my deck. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Yeah, this would have been real solid in my deck. Challenger Troll, yes, another card that I probably could have used. Watley, the Sun's Heart. Oh, yeah, this is another. It's like the Bant toughness. You gain life equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Soul Diviner. Not sure how playable this is. Maybe there's a build for it. I mean, if you can somehow find a way to abuse its effect. I mean, 2 mana, 2/3. Pretty solid. Alright, well, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Look at that. That's great art for an Angel token. So, kind of whiffed on that. Overall, though, the pre-release is great. A lot of fun. I didn't make the midnight just because I don't know if I can stay up till 4. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but, I just don't think I got the motivation. I think I'd rather sleep. But, yeah, overall, just great experience. Going 2-2, just, lackluster result, mediocre result, but at the same time, can't win them all. But yeah, that's it.